Hello, my name is Zach Brim. I am an assistant professor in the University of Florida IFAS Department of Agronomy, working from the Tropical Research and Education Center. My focus is research and extension in agroecology. When I introduce myself and my program, I find it important to start with what is agroecology. I think agroecology can be understood intuitively by the combination of the agricultural and ecological ideals. In some ways, it resonates as a worldview. You see all of the key pieces and their interactions, both conceptually and material, through the agroecology framework. But being able to express it thoughtfully is a bit more of a challenge. Agroecology's foundations come from these main areas: agriculture, both agronomy and horticulture, the ecology and the evolution, and of course, the society and economics. In the early history of agriculture and farming, the foundations of agroecology were shared as the foundations of agriculture. It was just the way that we farmed. At several times in history, something happened, whether it was a pivotal gain in knowledge or technology or social conflict. That's when agroecology broke up into these various areas or disciplines or philosophies. In the last 100 years, these foundations diverged and reconverged many times. Once again, the reconvergence is happening by way of current efforts through agroecology. What goals might be emphasized from these foundations? The goals of agroecology are to sustain food production, conserve natural resources, and maintain social. You can generalize these goals into three key areas: the production, the environment, and the society. Across each of these areas, agroecology seeks to be productive, sustainable, fair, and just. The agroecology principles support the foundations and goals of agroecology. The systems concept is really critical to agroecology. The key integration of the agro with the ecology is some manner of production and human involvement within the system. The driving principles of the system's manner of production are biodiversity and resilience. The contribution of biodiversity to the agroecosystem and the maintenance of resilience are critical to the agroecological goals. Each of the principles and goals can operate on a variety of scales. From an operational or research perspective, the scales span the plot and the field level, which then scale up to the regional and the global scales. From the social perspective, there is the farm, village, county, and globe. Why the challenge to communicate about agroecology? In my opinion, agroecology is a challenge to communicate because of its diversity of uses and perspectives. Being clear about what is agroecology in your perspective is very important. The context for where it is that you're coming from conceptually and what you're trying to say or speak to when you're talking about agroecology is key. In the Western world, agroecology is primarily a research approach, one that is launched from agricultural universities incorporating ecology into their work. Other research universities, from the other perspective, tend to move into the agroecology space from an ecology platform. Another way to describe agroecology is as a design. Designs from agroecology can include organic agriculture, natural systems agriculture, agroforestry, permaculture. Another use that is fraught with nuance is the agricultural practice. It is very similar to design, but is more the implementation than the planning. Cover cropping is an agricultural practice that would fit in the agroecology framework. Planning the application of plant diversity or crop rotation, including cover crops, would be a part of the design aspect. I've experienced an improper use for practice. You can use this agroecological practice improperly by making the assumption that just by doing an agroecological practice, it meets the highest standards of sustainability. I think it's really important to understand and demonstrate that agroecology is more of a process towards these goals of sustainability. The socio-political movement is also an important use of the term agroecology to appreciate. In many parts of the world that focus on rural development, agroecology is simply a political movement. It's a way of life to provide for your community, to feed yourself and own your land, to be able to work your land and make your own choices that make sense to your culture and lifestyle. It's a broad range of uses, a broad range of folks that are trying to participate and exist in agroecology. I think that we can and should coexist. That is fundamental to agroecology. The agroecology framework that I talk about tries to unify these various perspectives. I summarize the agroecological framework in this diagram. The principles, systems, biodiversity, resilience, and production are at the base of the pyramid, with the 4 uses put across 3 corners: the research approach, the design and practice, and the social movement. The scales span from the base of the pyramid at that plot and farm level all the way to the global level. All this leads up to the pinnacle of the pyramid, the agroecology goals: to be productive, sustainable, fair, and just. I've described the goals in other ways: sustain production, conserve natural resources, maintain social equality. The underpinnings for these goals are cohesive service to production, environment, and society. This framework diagram can be helpful to think about where you exist in this pyramid. When I was in graduate school, I operated just in the lower left-hand corner, the plot and field level at the research approach. I was thinking about designs and practice a little bit, but had my focus on research. Now at the University of Florida, I still focus on research, but I am also a state specialist for extension. Folks in extension really identify with the social movement. Also, with the research and extension I do, I'm able to expand the scale that I'm working with. I'm driven to expand the scope of what I'm doing across the pyramid to encompass the agroecology framework and its goals. I'll end this segment with a couple concrete ways to define agroecology. In big words, it's a scientific discipline motivated to understand agricultural, ecological, evolutionary, and socioeconomic principles and use them in an improvement process that sustains food production, conserves natural resources, and maintains social equality. What is agroecology a bit more simply, in a way that speaks to intuition and effective communication? Agroecology is the framing of agriculture as an ecological system. It is a sustainable production of food, fiber, fuel, and medicine. Agroecology is farming that emphasizes the benefits of diversity and the maintenance of resilient agroecosystems. Perhaps you have additional ideas of what is agroecology. I'd be excited to hear them.